Do you know what a goalie is, or the difference in an Iggy and a blank? Well, a goalie is someone who never scores and does his best to prevent you from scoring. Whereas an Iggy, he's just an ignorant gambler. He doesn't know anything really, but a blank, he doesn't even suspect anything. Hi, I'm Wayne Woody, and recently I had the privilege of writing this biography of Buddy Hall. In his early years, he was known as Rags, the Baron of the bar boxes. Then he graduated from the bar tables to the big track. And when it came to high-stakes gambling, he was the most feared of them all. Then he turned professional. And from there, the records tell the story. To this date, he has won more tournaments than any other professional pool player in the history of the sport. This, my friends, is your instructor. And I can assure you, if you follow the advice given in this video, it will supply you with the number one thing that separates a good shortstop from a top-notch professional. That is knowledge. Knowledge that has been gained over years of winning from seemingly very difficult situations. And now it's my pleasure to present to you the rifleman himself, Mr. Buddy Hall.
Thanks, Woody. And hello to all you 9-ball students. In this video, we're going to come to the most exciting aspect of the game. In fact, it's a never-ending aspect of the game. Over the 36 years that I've played pool, I've learned shots here and learned shots there that are actually shots that help me to win games at certain times. It's a never-ending learning process. With this video, I hope that you'll learn shots that'll help you win pool games, that'll give you that little bit of an edge to defeat your opponent when the time's right. Now with that, I'd like to show you our very first shot here. Here's a situation that came up in the finals of a 9-ball tournament in Moline, Illinois. I was playing Mike LeBron. I shot the 4 in, got a kiss off of the 7, ended up over here behind the 9. What I have to do here, now I'm on the hill, keep this in mind, and what I want to do is try to win this game from this situation. So my best chance to do that, instead of trying to kick into this ball and try to luck it in or something like that, trying to get lucky, that's no way to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to play safe here. I'm going to kick off of this rail. I'm going to use a little left-hand English, hit this ball full, knock it up table. It might even go in the side pocket. Send the cue ball over in this direction to try to stop in this area right in here to try to make sure that I win this game. So this is how I did it. Okay, here's a situation that come up in the middle of the tournament where my opponent missed and left me this. I had no control over landing where I'm at here. What happened was he shot the 7, missed it, come around the table, the cue ball ended up here, is below the 9, so I can't use this rail to try to hit the 7, to try to play him on top of the 9. So what I have to do in order to try to win from here is I have to come in 2 rails behind this ball. I'm actually kicking the ball toward the side pocket. It will actually probably come into the rail here and go to the end rail. What the ideal thing to happen here is the cue ball stop behind the 9. But your main goal here is to get the 7 to the end rail. This is just high center. Here's a shot that came up that's similar to the last shot that we played. What I want to do here is I want to make sure that my opponent doesn't have a chance to win this game. I want to win this game from right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play the 7 ball. I'm going to shoot it right at this side pocket. I'm going to hit the end rail, the side rail, with a little bit of right-hand English so I can get in deep on the 7, knocking it this direction, but I'm going to hit it with a proper speed to, if I miss the side pocket, I want to try to lag it to the end rail. Hopefully the cue ball will come over behind the 8 or maybe even behind the 9. This is the way you hit this shot. You hit it with high right-hand English. You want to hit the 7 full from the back. Okay, here's a situation that came up again in a major tournament. All these illustrations that I'm using have all came up in major tournaments. So this is the way to play these shots according to me. I don't know about according to you. Anyway, this shot came up where I have the 1 ball located on the end rail behind the 6, and the 8's also got me blocked. Well, there are a couple ways to play this. You can just blast into it, try to get lucky, or you can try to gain an advantage of a second shot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to play safe by kicking 1 rail. I'm going to hit the side rail, hit the top side of the 1, and try to knock the 1 ball back up into this area and lag the cue ball to this area right here. This is a high center ball. You might want to use just a touch of left-hand English, but I use a high center, maybe just a touch of left English, and hit it kind of soft. This is a 1 rail kick. That's the way to shoot that shot. Here's a situation that come up with me. I was playing, I think I was playing Alan Hopkins when this happened. The ball's landed in a situation here where you have no natural route to the 1 ball. So what you have to do is you have to create your own line. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shoot away. It's a real steep angle. I'm going to shoot away at this angle here with a low left-hand cue ball. And what I'll do is I'll just hit it with a little punch stroke. And what that should do is kill the ball off of this rail and straighten it out and make it come straight down table. This is a low left-hand draw shot. All you're trying to do here is just survive and not give your opponent ball in hand. Okay, here's another situation that came up in a 9-ball match. This is in a major tournament. The 5 ball has landed here. The cue ball's landed over this way where I can just hit the edge of the 5. But I don't want to hit it with a, if I hit it with a high ball, I can't get it down low enough. What I want to try to do is land the cue ball in this area right in here. So I'm going to hit this with a draw stroke. What that'll do when it hits this rail, it'll make it lengthen out to this rail. And that should bring me on down behind the 7 and the 9. You hit this with a draw stroke, low left-hand English. That'll give you all the distance that you need to try to get the cue ball back down table. Now this should put you in a position to win this game. Okay, here's another situation that's come up. You don't want to try to get lucky here. What you want to do is try to give yourself a chance to win the game on your next turn at the table. So what you have to do is get another turn at the table. The way we'll try to do that is I'm going to shoot this with a high touch of left-hand English, hit the rail here, and try to hit deep behind the 1. I want to almost stick the cue ball when I hit the 1, knocking the 1 this direction and trying to leave the cue ball up behind the 4. So this is a high left-hand cue ball. You kick 2 rails at this and just try to hit it good and firm behind it to stick right there. Perfect. Okay, here's a similar situation to the last one, except you don't have a ball up there to try to block. What you're going to have to do here is, like I said, again, this whole video is about how do you win from here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kick 2 rails, again, behind the 1. I'm going to knock it toward the side pocket. Hopefully it doesn't go in because the 2's down here. I'm going to hit the side rail here or here, somewhere in that area, and knock it down to the end rail and leave the cue ball on the end rail. So all you're doing here is trying to put maximum distance between the 1 and the cue ball. So I kick 2 rails behind it and try to stick pretty close to there. That's perfect. Okay, here's a situation that come up where I have a multitude of options here. I could bank it over here, I could bank it over here, I could try to lag the cue ball behind the 9. I'm not going to do any of those. I want to try to win the game from right here. So that doesn't mean that you have to make the ball to win the game from right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick behind the 7 because I want my cue ball to stay as close to the end rail as possible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it toward the side pocket. Hopefully, if it goes in the side pocket, that's just a bonus. But what will happen is it'll hit the rail here, and I'm going to try to lag it to the end rail and use the 8 as a blocker, as a potential blocker. So this is the way you hit this shot, with high right-hand English. You want to spin into the back of the 7 so the cue ball sticks right there. Okay, now you've seen what can happen. It went in the side pocket. But I want to show you another scenario to this shot. If this ball is hit properly, actually, you're better off not making this ball if you have trouble with distant shots, which I have trouble with distant shots. So I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to play it to the end rail, sticking the cue ball right there, and using the 8 as a blocker. This is really the best shot. From right there, it's really hard to lose this game. This is the best shot of the two. Here we have a situation that comes up pretty often in pool. You're in a tough spot here, and a good friend of mine, Eddie Taylor, in my opinion, the best bank pool player that ever lived, told me that anytime you're in a tough spot, don't think tough, think easy. So what we're going to do here, we're going to think easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back behind the 1. I'm just going to bump the 1 in this direction. The purpose here is to get the cue ball behind the 2. So you hit this nice and soft. You just hit it with a high center ball. Remember, just think easy. Okay, here's a situation that comes up every once in a while. This shot here, what you want to do with this particular shot, again, now what we're trying to do is win the game on this shot. So what I'm going to do, instead of banking this ball up table or something like that, I'm going to kick behind this ball. What I'm going to do is I'm going to knock it in the direction of the corner pocket. If it goes in, it'll just be a bonus because the cue ball is going to come to this side of the table, and I'll have a shot at the 2. But if something happens, this ball doesn't go, then it should end up somewhere in that area up there, and you have all these balls here as blockers. So the way you hit this, you hit it with a high left-hand cue ball, come behind the 1. You want to hit the 1 pretty thin, knocking it in the direction of that corner pocket right there. So this is the way you shoot this shot. There you go. See, that's the perfect ending to that shot. If it doesn't go in, you have your opponent in a very, very tough situation. Okay, here we come up with a situation where the 1 ball has came to the back side of the 8. I don't have a rail to shoot at going this way. The 3 is blocking me from a 2 rail kick that way. But now I've got a shot here that this is probably the best shot right here. You can actually win the game on this shot. You just kick 2 rails into that corner off of the side of the 1, knocking the 1 ball over that direction, sending the cue ball toward the 9. If you happen to make the 9, that's just a bonus. If you don't, then you have all these balls up here to block the 1. I mean, as blockers to keep between the cue ball and the 1 ball. Now, if the 1 happens to go in, the 2 ball's down here, so you'll probably have position on the 2. So this is the way we'll shoot it. We shoot it with a high center ball, try to hit the edge of the 1, playing the cue ball directly toward the 9, knocking the 1 ball over in that corner, and using all these balls as blockers to hide the cue ball behind. This is high center. Here we go. That's the perfect way to shoot this shot. You've got the 8 as a blocker. Now you've left your opponent in a really tough spot in this position right here. He really had a hard way to go. Okay, here's another situation where you have to use the rail first on the ball. Here we have the 1 ball has took up position behind the 5. The cue ball's over here, so I can't shoot straight at the 1. Now the 2's laying in a real tough spot here. In order to get position on this 2, you would either have to be above it to play it down here or perfect on it from right here in order to play it up in the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a shot. I'm going to shoot at the 1, but I'm going to also use the safety factor at the same time. I'm going to play the 1 ball up in the corner. I'm going to use the rail first, play the cue ball over to this side of the table in case the 1 goes in. I'll have position on the 2, but if it doesn't go in, then I've got all these balls here as blockers. So you hit this with a little bit of a low cue ball, rail first, playing the 1 up in the corner. Okay, this is maybe even better than making the ball. Now you've put the 1 out of play. The man can't shoot the 1 in. The only thing he can do here is try to play a safety off of this shot. Okay, here we have a situation that's come up. It's really a pretty simple shot, but the reason for this shot here is it's a multi-purpose shot. Here, all you want to do is play a simple shot, play the 2 off of the back of the 7. If something happens that you happen to hit this ball full and the 2 sticks right there, then you have these other balls as blockers. So what you have here is you have an offensive shot and a defensive shot rolled into one. We'll just play the 2 in the side, play the cue ball to the end rail to play the 4 over in the corner. Okay, that's the way to play this shot. If you happen to make the 2, you win the game. If you happen to miss it, you have all these balls here as blockers. You just about win the game whether you make it or miss it. Okay, we have another situation here where you can play, it's a 2-way shot. You can play the 1 ball to actually make the ball and play the cue ball down here for a shot on the 2. If something happens that you miss the 1, then you have the safety built in. We're going to play this ball 2 rails across the corner. It won't go 1 rail across the side because the 7 is here. So we're going to play it 1, 2 toward that pocket. Going to play the cue ball to this rail and back down here behind these balls. So if we make the 1, there's a chance we can win the game right there. If we miss it, there's a chance we can win the game right there also. So we just play 2 rails across, play the cue ball to right here. This shot here is actually better if it works out like this, because now there's no rail for him to kick at the ball. You've got the 1 sitting right in the hole. All he can do is try to lock something up. You have him in a really, really tough spot right here. Okay, here's a situation that's come up playing another tournament match. And this one, the whole game, or maybe even the whole session, can rest on this shot right here. Now, you're in a position to where you don't want to play the 4 ball across the side and just bet the whole game on that. It's really a tough angle to just play the billiard and let the 4 go wild. So what we're going to do is we're going to play both balls. We're going to play them, we're going to cinch up both shots here. I'm going to play the 4 ball, 1 rail, 2 rails to the end rail. I'm going to hit it with a low right-hand cue ball, strike this rail, and come straight toward the 9. What I'm actually playing is a billiard on the 9, but I'm building in the safety by putting the 4 ball on the end rail. This is hit with a low right-hand cue ball. You can win the game from right here. It's really tough for your opponent to do anything here. He may be able to lag over and drop you behind the ball, but you've really put him in a pretty tough spot right there. Okay, there's another option to this shot that some people may prefer to play. I've played it myself. Here you could just thin the 4, knock it up toward the 6, and play the billiard on the 9. That's a good shot to shoot too, but the only problem with that sometimes is if you hit it too weak, you leave the bank. If you happen to cut it out a little bit, then you leave the shot up in the corner for the 4. We'll shoot it that way, play the 4 toward the 6, and play the cue ball into the 9. You can win the game like this too. That's another way to play that shot. This here, about the only thing you've given up is maybe the bank on the 4. Okay, here's a shot that has come up in world-class competition. Here you have a multitude of shots. You can play safe, you can play the 2-ball, 3 rails around, follow the cue ball here to here, and duck, which is a good shot. But here's another shot here that you can win the game right now. And that's just 3 rail the 2 and just stop your cue ball right there. Go ahead and play the 3 right at this corner pocket. If you miss it, you have the 5, the 6, and the 4 as blockers. Now if you happen to make the ball, you're sitting right here, nice little shot on the 3 to go ahead and win the game. So the way I would play this shot, I'd play it 3 rails, stop my ball right there, use these 3 balls as blockers in case I don't make the ball. Okay, the balls came up short. They have no shot on the 2. They're in a tough spot. If I'd have made the 2, I had a shot at the 3 to win the game. Okay, here's another situation that comes up pretty regular in 9-ball. Here's a shot where you can cut the 1 in and just let the cue ball fly if you want to, or you can spin the 1 in, which is the shot that I like to shoot, and hit the end rail, the side rail, come down, hit this rail, and drop the cue ball into this area right in here. So that way, if you happen to miss the 1, you have a safety. If you happen to make the 1, then you may have a shot on the 2 to win the game right now. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to win the game from right here on this particular shot. So what I'll do, I'll hit it with low left-hand English, spin the 1 in the corner pocket, or toward the corner pocket, and play the cue ball to this area right in here. Okay, there we've executed the shot. We've overcut the 1 just a little bit, but the cue ball taking up position right here has put your opponent in a position to where I don't think he can win this game from here. Okay, we've got a situation right here where we're really in trouble. We've got a really hard shot to shoot. But what we want to do is make this ball or miss it. It doesn't matter. Make it or miss it. We're going to try to make it. We still want to be able to win the game on this shot. We want this to be the key shot to winning this game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this with a high left-hand cue ball. I'm going to cross the 5, play it 1 rail at the corner pocket. I'm going to let my cue ball hit the end rail, the side rail, and come back down into this area right in here. If I happen to miss the 5, I want to miss it to the short side so the 5 ball will go back over to the end rail. If I accomplish that, then we can win the game whether I make this ball or miss it. So I play it 1 rail across the corner and play the cue ball down into this area right in here. Okay, now what we've done, we've accomplished both shots perfectly. We've made the 5. We got the cue ball down here to the end rail. We've definitely won this game on that shot. Here's a situation that comes up all the time. And so many times I see people actually shooting the wrong shot. It's a real simple shot right here that if you'll shoot, you'll win more games than you will if you're trying to make this ball. To try to shoot this ball straight in is really what you would call a shortstop caliber player to really try to shoot that ball straight in. You should never do that. Here, all you do is cross over the one, knock the one ball to the end rail. You'll win more games like that than you will shooting at the ball. And here, under these conditions, you even got a chance to play the 9. So this is what we'll do. We'll just cross over the 1, send the cue ball down toward the 9, and lag the 1 ball at the end rail. If you play the shot that way, you'll win more games than you will trying to shoot the ball straight in. All right, this shot came up in the finals of the Memphis Open. I was playing Mike Siegel. I was at a point in the game where I was on the hill. Now, I didn't want to duck under these conditions. I didn't want to play safe from here. So what I elected to do is I played an offensive shot and a defensive shot at the same time. I played the 9 ball off the edge of the 8 at the side pocket. At the same time, I played the cue ball to this area right in here. Well, to make a long story short, I didn't make the 8, the 9 in the side pocket, but I did get my cue ball to right here. The 9 ball hit the rail and went over in the other corner pocket. But I did win the game on this shot. This is the way I played it. I played it off the 8 in the side with the built-in safety. And that was the winning shot. Here's a shot that we should take into mind here. Some shots you never play defense on. Here's one that you go strictly offense. You put the defense aside and just play strictly offense and play the 5 ball in the corner pocket. If you make that shot, you probably win the game. Okay, here's a situation that came up in the Memphis Open tournament. Now, there are a number of things to do here. What I'd like for you to do is just study this shot and see how you would play it, and then I'm going to show you what I would do in this spot.
Some might elect to thin the left side of the 3, playing the cue ball 2 rails up behind the 5 and 8. But this is much better. Use a soft draw, pulling the cue ball back off the 3 between the 8 and 9. The 3 goes 2 rails up table to the end rail. Why is this a better choice? This puts more distance between the cue ball and the object ball and makes it more difficult to hit.
Okay, here's a situation that comes up all the time, where you might want to just haul off and fan the 4 in, you know, to wow the audience, just try to get everybody smiling and happy, and ooh, look how good a player he is. But this is the shot I would shoot under these conditions here.
Since the 4 is frozen, it can be made in the corner, but it might hang in the pocket if hit anything less than perfect. Furthermore, even if you do make the 4, the cue ball will likely run up into the 7 ball, and that makes position on the 5 a gamble. Why take all those chances when you can cinch a win in this situation? Thin the 4 with a little high right, playing the cue ball 4 rails to snuggle up behind the 8 and 7. If you execute this shot properly, you're 100-to-1 favorite to win.
Okay, here's a situation where you've made 4 balls on the break. You actually have a shot at the 3 ball across the corner, but you don't want to shoot it because of the 4 and 8, how close the 4 and 8 are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play the 3 across the corner to the end rail and try to play the cue ball down behind the 7. This is the proper shot in this situation.
The 8 and the 4 are sitting close to each other. If the 8 was located up around the spot, then a cross-corner bank on the 3 would be the best shot. However, the cue ball and the 3 are close, and that makes it easy to control the angles. Play the 3 to the center diamond on the end rail, spinning the cue ball with low left off the side rail to the opposite end rail and parking it behind the 7 ball. Ducking on this kind of shot demonstrates that you can foresee a potential bad roll, and you're playing to win. Plus, it puts all the strain on your opponent's shoulders.
Baseball's a game of inches. Pool's a game of millimeters. The reason I say that is because of the situation that you've ended up here with. You've made another great break. Now you're hooked on the 1. What do you do from here? How do you win this game? This, I believe, is the proper shot from right here.
The 2 has you partially hooked on the 1 ball. You might consider a curve, but the English for a curve could take too quickly and go into the 2. And even if you escaped that hazard, there is a very real danger of following the 1 into the pocket. A jump shot might come to mind, but when the object ball is so close to a rail, you will probably hop the cue ball off the table after making the 1. Why not take all the might-be's and dangerous possibilities out of your game? Hit the 1 ball thin, putting a lot of right spin on the cue ball, going 2 rails behind the 4, using the 6 and 7 for blockers. No doubt this is the best choice, because once again you're using your bad rolls to give a headache to your opponent.
Okay, here you've come to the table with really no shot. What you want to do in a situation like this, according to the way the balls are laying, you want to do your best to get cue ball in hand. So what you do here, you just forget about making the 1 altogether and try to place the cue ball right here. If you put the cue ball in this position right here, more than likely you're going to get cue ball in hand when it comes your turn. So this is the way to play this shot. Okay, we've come to the table here with a situation where you actually have no shot. There's a really simple shot here that's so simple you can overlook it. What you can actually do here is you can control 3 balls, open the table up, and possibly get cue ball in hand on your very next shot.
Shoot the 3 ball toward the corner pocket, as though the 6 was not there. The 3 will hit the 6 and clear the side pocket for the 5. Use a natural high ball and let the cue ball float behind the 7 ball. The closer the better, like so.
That should open everything up. Okay, here's a shot that is really kind of tough to execute. What you want to do is, you don't have a shot at the 9. You don't want to try to bank the 6 back down here. You don't want to try to cut it over in that corner. What you want to do here is try to get cue ball in hand. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw the cue ball to the side rail and try to drop it behind the 9. But at the same time, I'm using the 9 and the 8 as blockers. I'm playing the 6 to this area right in here.
Take the gamble out of your shots. Use a soft draw, pulling the cue ball 2 rails behind the 9 ball, and taking the 6 up to about the middle of the table.
Okay, now if you do that, you'll probably win that game. Okay, you have a shot that's come up here where if you happen to hit it a little bad, you're going to sell out. So here's a shot that you have to hit what we would call in the pool world of professionals perfect. What we want to do is we want to thin the 1, hit the end rail, the side rail, and bring the cue ball in the direction of the 9. You have all these balls up here as blockers. You don't want to try to make this ball.
Use a touch of left English, cutting the 1 to the right, while bringing the cue ball up table between the 7 and 3. If you get a thicker hit on the 1 ball, you have the 4, 5, and 6 as blockers.
If you execute it like that, you'll probably win this game. Okay, here's a situation that's come up that you really don't have a shot. You can't play that ball in the side because you have to hit it too thin. It's just too tough of a make proposition. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to get cue ball in hand on the next shot. I'm going to bank the 2 ball, 1 rail down between the 5 and the 7. I'm going to send the cue ball to this side rail and to the end rail up behind the 4. If I can execute this shot properly, I can probably get cue ball in hand on the next shot.
There are no balls that you can easily snooker your opponent behind, and there is no easy pocket for the 2. However, distance is the common enemy of every player. Bank the 2 ball off the end rail between the 5 and 7. Follow the cue to the end rail. Your opponent will have to get lucky to win from here, because now you have given yourself an excellent chance in getting another shot.
Okay, now what that'll probably do is maybe get your cue ball in hand for your next shot. Okay, you have a situation here where it's really a matter of personal preference. I've seen some of the best players in the world, Nick Varners, Efren Reyes, Earl Strickland's, shoot this shot where they would actually thin this ball over into this area and use all 4 of these balls as a blocker. That's not the way I would play this shot. I want to really cinch it up. I want to make sure that I can get cue ball in hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play off of this side of the 2, knocking the 2 back down table, bringing the cue ball 1 reel, 2 reels, and try to snug him up against the back of the 8. This is my own personal preference on this shot. Okay, this way you're almost sure to get cue ball in hand. The mark of a champion is his ability to pick the shot that he wants to shoot and be able to execute that shot every time that he does shoot. The game is actually repetition of execution, so know your ability, know what you can do and what you can't do. Here we have a couple options. We can bank the 3, cross the corner, send the cue ball up behind the 7 and the 6, hope we get up there. Or there's another shot that's much more exact here. We'll just play the 3 ball across the side to this rail and drop the cue ball down behind the 5.
And this is the reason why Buddy prefers this way. The 5 is off the rail just far enough to provide a wide area for a snooker. Plus, both balls are traveling a shorter distance, which makes it easier to control the speed.
Now that shot will probably get you ball in hand. Okay, you've come to a situation at the table here where you have to push out. Your opponent didn't make a ball on the break. Now I have to push to a spot where I think that it's going to be an advantage to me. It's under most conditions, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to push the cue ball to right here. Now most players, top players, would take this shot. They wouldn't give it back. But you never know. You never know whether they'll give it to you or not. So go ahead and push out to as tough a spot as you can. I'm going to push to right here and see what my opponent says. I'll just try to push straight across from the 1. Okay, now if my opponent tells me, shoot, that's what I'd like to hear him say. If he says shoot, what I'm going to do with this shot is I'm going to bank the 1 ball 2 rails across. I'm going to bank it 1 rail to here and 1 rail back to here. I'm going to send the cue ball with right hand spin down this line right here. I'm going to try to use these balls as blockers. Most top players would do this to you though. This would be the best way to play to try to get an advantage to your opportunity at the table. Okay, I've showed you one way to play. Now say, for instance, you're playing an Earl Strickland or Mike Siegel or one of the best players in the world. You don't want to push that ball to there because you know you're not going to get it back. So there's another option to pushing out. This is why I say study the table, figure your best opportunity. I would push to this rail right here, just barely move the cue ball. So the only option they would possibly have is this side of the ball. Now they're more than likely going to shoot, but I would rather have them shoot at this ball, trying to make it or playing safe, than I would from over there. So I'm just going to play the cue ball over to this rail, let them hit this side of the 1. So this is where I would push to, playing a top player. Okay, I pushed the cue ball over to this side rail. Now what I'm going to do here is, if they give me the shot, they're going to study the shot. If they can hit enough of this ball to make the ball, they may shoot at it because there's a built-in safety. You can hit the side rail, the end rail, and back down this side of the table. If they can't hit that much over, what they're going to do then is probably pass the shot back to me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overcut this ball. I'm going to thin it. I'm going to put it behind the 7, send the cue ball 1, 2, down to this area. This is the shot I would shoot. That's the way I would play this particular series of push-outs. Okay, I've come to the table with a situation, another push-out situation. What I want to do here is I want to push the cue ball to a location to where I will have to play safe. Or if my opponent takes the shot, he'll have to play safe. Now the whole key here is to push it to where do you play safe to. You make it as hard for your opponent to figure that out as you possibly can. So I'm going to roll the cue ball to right here, and you try to figure out where I'm going to play safe.
Roll the cue ball straight across from the 3 ball, around the first diamond. A double kiss prevents the cross-side bank on the 1, and it's a snug fit to cut the 1 by the 6 into the corner. If your opponent passes the shot, your plan should be to bank the 1 ball 2 rails for the middle area of the end rail, stroking the cue ball with a little low left to pull it behind the 9. This is much better than coming off the 1 and going down table using the 7 and 4 as blockers, because this way you get to hit the cue ball instead of rolling it.
Okay, now that I've rolled it to here, is my opponent going to give me this shot, or is he going to take it? More than likely, in this situation here, he'll probably give it to me. Okay, if he gives me the shot, I have 2 options. I can play the cue ball to the end rail, or I can play the cue ball behind the 9. I'm going to play the cue ball behind the 9. I'm going to hit this with a draw stroke, banking the 1 over and back, trying to miss the 4, and play the cue ball up behind the 9. That's the way I would play this particular shot. If my opponent lets me have the shot and I execute it like this, he's in a lot of trouble. Okay, you come to the table with a situation like this. Remember, it's always better when you're pushing out. If you push out to a safety, push to where your opponent has to roll the ball. And instead of being able to hit it on the bottom where he can hit the shot or where he can hit it on the side, it doesn't matter. You want to put him in a position where all he can do is roll the ball. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to push, but I'm going to push to this area right here where the only thing I'll let him do is hit the top of the cue ball, where all he can do is roll the cue ball.
Your plan should be to bank the 2 off the end rail between the 5 and 6, letting your cue ball float behind the 8 or the 9. If you get the hook, your opponent will regret passing the shot back to you. And that's good, because if he gets afraid to shoot, and he's afraid to let you shoot, how can he beat you?
Okay, ideally, it would have been much better if we could have got right behind the 9. But as it turned out, like I say, when all you can do is roll the ball, you're going to come up with situations where all you can do is put distance between you and the man. Okay, here's another push-out situation. Sometimes when you're pushing out, you're better off to push out and give your opponent a little bit of a shot. Sometimes it's better to give a little and receive a lot rather than give a lot and receive a little. So I'm going to push out to the end rail. I'm going to actually leave him a shot at the 6. Okay, now this came up in a pro tournament. I was playing Mike LeBron and this exact situation came up. And that's where I pushed to.
By knocking the 7 ball to the end rail and letting your cue ball float over to the center diamond area, you're tempting your opponent to shoot the 2-6 combination, a combination that can easily be missed. And if he makes it, position on the 2 after the combo is questionable. Be aware of clusters like the 4, 3, and 5. Your opponent is going to have a lot of difficulty running out in this situation.
My opponent broke the balls. He failed to see an opportunity to lock me up. He could have kicked behind the 1 and stuck his cue ball right there. He could have hit and stick, knocking the 1 down here. But he didn't do that. Instead, he elected to roll the cue ball over to right here. Now I ask you, what would you do in this situation? Now I'll tell you what I done. Now that you've looked the table over, I took the shot. What I done, I played the 1 ball in that corner pocket, spinning the cue ball with low right hand English, bringing the cue ball around to this side of the table. I'm using the 8 as a blocker. Now this is the way I played the shot. Now, actually, this is what happened. I missed the ball, but I blocked it with the 8. The 1 ball actually come out to about this area right here. I didn't hit it quite that well. But anyway, I won the game from right there off of the shot that he left me. Okay, here's another situation. The balls have come to rest in this area. You don't have the push-out option, you don't have a safety, and you don't have an offensive shot. The only shot that you actually have here is to blast into them and try to luck one in. So that's what I'm going to do. At certain times when you're playing pool, the only option that you will have is to blast into the balls and try to get lucky. So that's what I'm going to do.
You can see 3/4 of the 1 ball, but what can you do with it? There is no offensive shot. and there's no way to play a controlled safety from this position. Buddy is even concerned about scratching in the side. What if you foul or try to tie up balls? Your opponent is going to put you in jail or put you on 2 fouls and probably wind up with ball in hand, or perhaps even worse, 3 foul you and win the game anyway. Your only alternative is to move as many balls as possible with a blast.
Okay, I had a shot to where all I could do is blast into him and try to luck one in. So I blasted into him. I hit him as hard as I could, and I lucked the ball in. Now, did I make a good shot or did I get lucky? Okay, I'm going to give you a little sample here of a video that's to come. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of a system that I have worked out that helps me to play position, and I believe you'll be interested in this too. I'm going to give you a line here to go by. The system that I call this is the clock system. If you'll notice, I have a piece of chalk right here. I'm going to come straight off of this diamond and straight off of this diamond. I'm going to make a mark with this piece of chalk. Okay, that'll give you an idea where to put the ball every time, and you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. I'm going to set the 1 ball right there. Okay, I'm going to come straight off of the center diamond, straight out, edge, the back edge of the cue ball to the front edge of the 1 ball. Now I'm going to mark that spot so that this will be consistent. I want this to be in the same place every time to give you a good idea of what I'm going to do. The system that I call this is the clock system. And what it is every number, take the face of a clock. Every number on that clock will equal a diamond on the pool table, and this is an accurate system. Now, for instance here, I want to go 1 rail to this diamond right here. Okay, that would be 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Now, everybody has a different stroke, so what you'll have to do is you'll have to find your own first number. Okay, 11 o'clock, for instance, would bring me to this diamond. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of samples of this. Okay, I'm going to hit the first shot with 11 o'clock. I'm going to come to this diamond right here. This is 11 o'clock on your cue ball, just like the face of a clock. See, it brings me straight at the diamond. All right, now to give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about, put the cue ball back in exactly the same place. Put the 1 ball in exactly the same place. Now, if 11 o'clock would bring you to here and 1 o'clock would bring you to here, you know that 12 o'clock would be right in the pocket, so we're not going to use 12 o'clock. Okay, 1 o'clock should bring me to this diamond. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay, that brings me directly to the diamond. Now we've seen that 11 o'clock brought us exactly to this diamond, and 1 o'clock brought us exactly to this diamond. Excuse me. Now 2 o'clock should bring me exactly to this diamond, if what I'm saying is correct. Every number on the face of a clock will equal a diamond. So this is 2 o'clock on the cue ball to the second diamond. Okay, this is an exact system. And what you have to do, though, is you will have to find your very first number on the clock. Everybody's stroke is different. Excuse me. Now I'm going to show you how to apply this. I'm going to set the cue ball back there. I'm going to set the 1 ball here. I'm going to set the cue ball right back where I marked them. Okay, now I'm going to take another ball, and I'm going to set it right here in the center of the table. This will give you a good example. Okay, I'm going to set a ball here, and I'm going to set a ball here. Okay, now I want to play position on 3 balls using the clock system. So what I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to play position for the 3 to play position on the 8. So what would I have to do there? I would have to play 11 o'clock on the cue ball because I want to come into this diamond because I want an angle to go down table to play position on the 8. So this would be 11 o'clock on the cue ball playing 3 ball position. This is 11 o'clock. Okay, that brings me straight to that diamond. Now all I have to do is roll this ball in. I have a natural angle to go up for position on the 8 ball. This is the system that works. This will give you a good idea of how to play 3 ball position. I'm going to set this ball back here. Now to give you another illustration of this, I'm going to set the 1 ball back in the exact spot that it was. I'm going to set the cue ball right back where it was at, right here. Okay, now I'm going to play 1 o'clock position on the 6 in order to play to the 9 ball. I hit 1 o'clock on the cue ball. That should bring me to this diamond. That'll give me a natural angle to come down to play position on the 9. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay, that takes me straight to the diamond. Remember, the numbers are accurate. 1 o'clock is just like on the face of a clock. 1 o'clock will bring you to the first diamond. 11 o'clock will bring you to this diamond. 2 o'clock will bring you to this diamond, and so on and so forth. Now I just shoot the 6 ball in, playing position on the 9 because I'm on the proper side of the 6. That's using that system. Now, maybe I've whetted your appetite a little bit for this next video, and maybe I haven't. I hope I have. I believe you'll really enjoy it because I'll teach you how to get all over the table from any place on the table with the clock system. Thank you. A good friend of mine named Ruben Rodriguez from Salt Lake City, Utah, has invented a product that I think is going to improve everybody's pool stroke from the beginner to the intermediate player to even the professional level. Now, this product is called the Cue Guide. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a little demonstration of just how this works and how it will help you to improve your stroke. Now, if you just follow the simple instructions to the Cue Guide, what we do is you practice bringing your tip right to the mouth of the Cue Guide. Now you practice stroking in to about 1/3 of it. This is without hitting the edges. This will true your stroke. When you have that portion of it down, then you go farther in to about 2/3 of it. Now this also, you do this without touching the edges of the Cue Guide. Now when you have finished that portion of it, you practice bringing your cue tip all the way through the Cue Guide to this level right here, and this will improve and true your stroke to make you play a better game of pool and have a much prettier stroke.
Big shoulder jaw. If I had more time, you know I'd love them all. Well, I've never
My name's Buddy Hall. I'm here to do my new video on the clock system. I know everybody's been waiting for it now for over a year, and we're just not getting around to doing it, but I think you're going to really enjoy this. Now, I've had a couple requests here from a few of the fans and some of the people that are wanting to buy this video. They want to know a little bit about basics. What do you do in order to make sure that you're down on the shot properly and you're going to hit the ball the right way? And they want to take out as many of the mistakes as they possibly can before they ever shoot the shot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a couple of little things that I do here. One thing is the grip. This is just the basics of pool now. The grip, you just wrap your hand around the cue about where you would hold it, gently, not tight. Your cue should be able to slide in and out of your hand like this. You just wrap your hand around it gently. Now, to make a bridge, a lot of people want to know, well, what's the best bridge? Well, there are a couple different ways to make a bridge. Myself, I just kind of make a fist. Then bring out my thumb and my forefinger here, wrap around, bring my thumb and my finger together, and then just spread these three fingers out. It forms a tripod. You come right down to the table and you've got a nice, firm bridge. The other is to use an open hand bridge. Now, this bridge is really the bridge that you would use most of the time in case you are playing with a high cue ball and you want to cinch the ball. You don't want the cue ball getting away from you or anything. Just use an open bridge like this. You just make a kind of a steeple-like. Bring your thumb against your hand like this, setting the heel of your hand down on the table, and now you'll be able to just rest your cue on top of that. That's a nice solid bridge, and that seems to work very well. Everybody seems to like that bridge. Now, another important thing that everybody wants to know about, your stance. Now, what's the proper stance? Well, I come up to the table, and I get down and I'm bumping into myself here. I'm running all over myself. How do I get out of that? How do I manage to not run into myself when I'm stroking the cue? Well, this is the best way to come to a good solid stance at the table. If you'll face the table, face the shot, wherever your cue ball's at, put your cue tip about where your bridge hand is going to be. Now stand right beside your cue, holding your cue about where you would normally hold it. Take a step straight out, not toward your cue. Don't step toward your cue like this because you're defeating your purpose. You're still going to be against the cue. What you want to do is you want to come straight out like this, pivot this foot. Now when you bend over, everything's out of the way. You've got nice freedom of movement there. You'll be able to stroke the cue and you'll be able to get down on the shot properly. This is a good solid stance, and this is really the way you should do it. Now, give me 1 second. I'm going to set up a shot, and we're going to go right into the clock system, and we're going to see if I'm going to see if I can teach you a little bit about position play, how you move the cue ball to play 2 or 3 balls ahead. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, for our first shot, I'm going to take the 9 ball, and I'm going to set it right here. I'm going to try to come right off of this diamond and off of this diamond and try to make a square. You know, act like the 9 ball is actually a diamond itself. Now, I'm going to move it out here where it's right with it. Now I'm going to take the cue ball, come straight off of this diamond here out to where this edge and this edge are right together. Now, what I'm going to do is the clock system, if you just imagine that you're looking at the face of a clock, a round face of a clock, or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, where you know where all the numbers are at, all the way around to 11 o'clock back to 12. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the clock to make the cue ball travel from one position on the table to the next. Here I'm going to use a reverse English shot. This is 10 o'clock on the cue ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this rail and try to bring the cue ball over as close to this diamond right in here as I can. And this is a 10 o'clock cue ball. Now, act like you're looking right on the wall, and you look at the 10 o'clock number to bring yourself back to this center diamond here. This is 10 o'clock. Okay, now we have our first number. We know that this is going to bring us to right here. That's about, an inch or so away from the first number here. So now we're going to set the ball right back up where it was. Now, I'm going to set the cue ball, bring the cue ball right back out, edge to edge again. This is so you can set this up at home
and be able to get your first number and really know where you're going with the clock system. Okay, now 10 o'clock brought us to here. 11 o'clock should bring us down an extra diamond. Okay, this is at 11 o'clock on the cue ball. Every number equals a diamond. This is 11 o'clock. Okay, now you see where this ball landed. It landed right here. So it actually landed about 2 inches below this diamond. This diamond was 2 inches below. This was 2 inches below. So actually, it was actually a diamond difference in where the two balls landed on the 10 o'clock and on the 11 o'clock. All right, now with the 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock landing right there, we're going to put this ball back right where it was. We're going to set the cue ball right back where it was, edge to edge. This is so you can set it up at home. All right, now, if 11 o'clock took us to here, then 12 o'clock may take us to right here. Let's see what 12 o'clock does. 12 o'clock, this is high center cue ball, 12 o'clock. Okay, it's exact. So that tells me that each number that we've used has equaled exactly 1 diamond. Okay, that was 12 o'clock. Now we're going to go to 1 o'clock, see how true the system holds. We're setting the 9 ball in exactly the same place again. We're not going to change that because I want you to be able to set this up at home and be able to practice these shots. Now, you'll see what I'm getting to here in just a minute. I'm really building a base for us here. All right, now 1 o'clock, if 12 o'clock brought us to right here, then 1 o'clock should bring us to right here if I hit a true 1 o'clock cue ball. Okay, now remember you have to play everything off the center of the pocket to get a true, accurate reading off of the cue ball. This is 1 o'clock. It should bring me about into that piece of chalk. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay. It's brought me at the exact angle. I didn't hit out here. I come in like this. Okay. Now, maybe what I done, I wasn't paying that much attention, maybe you were, as to where I hit the 9 ball. Did I hit into this side of the pocket? If I hit into this side of the pocket, that'll make it come short. If I hit into this side of the pocket, that'll make it go long. I'm trying to hit center, the dead center of the pocket. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay, there it is. That was dead center of the pocket, 1 o'clock cue ball, which brought me exactly to right here. Which, now this tells me that everything's working properly. All right, now, say for instance this happens. Instead of being here, your cue ball, the object ball, is here. Now you've come straight off of this diamond, and you're straight away from this diamond. Now remember that. You come straight off of this diamond, instead of there, you're all the way over a full diamond this way, and up 1 diamond width from the center diamond. Okay, now we're going to come right off of this diamond, edge to edge. We're using this edge to this edge. Now if 1 o'clock would bring us, say, we'll use the 12 o'clock number to give you a little better idea of what we're talking about here. All right, 12 o'clock on the cue ball, when it was set in here, brought us to right here. All right, we've moved a full diamond back. We've moved 1 diamond width back this way. So now what we're going to do, we're going to hit a high center ball and see where it takes us, taking into consideration the 1 diamond back. Okay, this is high center, 12 o'clock. So what does that do? That equals a diamond. We moved 1 diamond back. 12 o'clock before brought us to right here. 12 o'clock that time brought us to right here. You moved 1 diamond back, so 12 o'clock will actually take you 1 diamond longer. So this is a pretty basic system here that we worked out. It works according to the numbers on a clock, and what it'll do, it'll help you to play 3 balls ahead. I'm going to show you that right now. Here we have, I'm going to set them in rotation so you don't get confused. All right, I'm going to set the 6 ball right here. I'm going to set the 8 ball right here. I'm going to set the 9 ball right here. Okay, now we want to be able to play 3 balls ahead. When they talk about 3 balls ahead, that's really not ahead of the ball you're shooting at. 3 balls ahead is actually the ball that you're shooting at is counted as one of those balls. Position on this ball is the second ball. You have to play an angle on this ball to play position on the third ball. That's 3 balls ahead. So what we'll do, we know that 10 o'clock brings us to here, 11 o'clock brings us to here, 12 o'clock brings us to here, 1 o'clock brings us to here, 2 o'clock brings us to here, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do, we want to play position on the 9, so we're going to play this at 11 o'clock. We want the cue ball to strike right in here. We want to have a down angle. We want to be below the 8. So when we shoot at the 8, we'll knock the 8 in the side, and the cue ball can roll right down table for position on the 9. Okay, this is 11 o'clock on the cue ball to play position on the 8 to get to the 9. This is 11 o'clock. Okay, that's perfect. Now we have the angle to just shoot the 8 in and play position on the 9. This is called playing 3 balls ahead using the clock system. All right, now we just use a high center ball here, go right down table for position on the 9. That's playing 3 balls ahead using the clock system. Okay, say for instance, this ball is at this end of the table. We have a ball at this end of the table this time. We have the 6 ball right here. Okay? With the 7 right here in the middle of the table again. Okay, now this time we're edge to edge. Now we have to play position on the 7 to play position on this ball. I'm just giving you a couple of illustrations here so you can kind of stay in the park on this. All right, now we know that 12 o'clock brings us to here. 1 o'clock brings us to here. We actually want to play the 1 o'clock angle. We may not want to hit it that hard, but we want to be down just a little bit when we shoot at the 7 to be able to play position on the 9. So this is 1 o'clock on the cue ball, playing the clock system to play 3 balls ahead. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay, that's a perfect angle right there to shoot the 7 in and play position on the 9. Okay, here's another series of shots for us. I'm going to set the 7 ball right here, straight off of this diamond and straight off of this diamond. Again, I'm going to set the cue ball edge to edge on this. Now, when I make contact with this, it should give me a projection like this. Should take me pretty close to this diamond right here with a 12 o'clock cue ball. Well, that's just playing the natural hit and ricochet off of the 7 to that diamond at 12 o'clock. Let's see if that's what happens. This is 12 o'clock. Okay, it takes us right to the diamond. Okay, I'm going to set it back up just like this. That was 12 o'clock. All right, now I'm going to go to 1 o'clock. Now 1 o'clock should bring me right into this diamond. That should be my 1 o'clock cue ball. So here we go. At 1 o'clock, remember edge to edge, when you're setting these shots up, set the cue ball, this edge to this edge, and do that every time. Make sure you set the 7 in the right place every time, so when you practice these shots, you'll get some kind of feel for the clock system. Okay, this is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Judging from what happened last time, 12 o'clock brought us into here. 1 o'clock should bring us in to this area right in here. This is 1 o'clock. Okay, so that tells me that the system and the table, under the right conditions, is all playing properly. Now, sometimes you'll get on a table that is playing a little wet, and your angles will be true to the first number, but they may be a little off to the second number. So that's why you have to find your first number. And with all of these shots, every table plays just a little different, and everybody's stroke is just a little different. So what you need to do is set the shot up, find your first number, and then from that number, you advance 1 number, just like you were on a clock, for every diamond that you want to travel, and it'll be consistent. But what you have to do is find your first number. Remember to do that. Okay, now I'm going to play one more shot here. I'm going to hit the 11 o'clock cue ball and try. Okay, 12 o'clock brought us into right here. Okay, 11 o'clock should bring us into right here. Well, what happens here is, this is a little tricky. At 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, seems like that 11 o'clock would bring you right into this pocket, but actually it starts narrowing from there. So you've actually got two diamonds, but the width that you're coming in is actually about a diamond. So anytime you're coming down table and coming past this, you'll average about two diamonds per number on the cue ball. So, okay, 11 o'clock should bring us right into this diamond right here. This is 11 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay, 11 o'clock brought us right below the side pocket, so that's a good shot. Now, I'm going to give you an example of why this system here, the 1 o'clock, the 12 o'clock, and the 11 o'clock will help you to play 3 balls ahead in just 1 second. Okay, I've set these 3 balls up. I've put the 7 back where it's at, putting it edge to edge here. I want to play position on the 8 to play position on the 9. So I know that 12 o'clock will bring me to right here. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the 12 o'clock angle, and all I'm going to try to do is bump that rail right there. I want to stay above the 8, so I'll have a down angle to come down for the 9. This is 12 o'clock on the cue ball. This is playing the clock system to play 3 balls ahead so you don't run out of shots. This is 12 o'clock. Okay, that's a high center cue ball. I really wanted to actually bump the rail a little bit so I wouldn't be dead on the rail, but I'm okay. I have a down angle. I'm coming across the 8. All I have to do is shoot the 8 in, paste the cue ball down to this area here for position on the 9 to knock the 9 in, and that's playing 3 balls ahead using the clock system. This is a pretty accurate system, and it'll get you out of trouble a lot of times. When you think that you're out of shots, try the clock system, and more than likely it'll keep you alive and keep you playing. I have positioned the 7 in the same place, the 8 ball in the same place. I'm going to change the location of the 9 this time to show you what you can do with the clock system to play position 3 balls ahead. Now we know that we need to be down this way. Before, we were up here with a down angle toward the 9. Anytime you're below the ball and you're traveling toward the object ball, that's called a down angle. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shoot the 7 in with 11 o'clock cue ball, dropping the cue ball, letting the cue ball come into this area right in here to have a down angle to go that way to play position on the 9. Okay, this is 11 o'clock cue ball. Remember, edge to edge. Try to make sure that you have a good stance, a good bridge, good follow-through. Execute this shot properly. The cue ball should hit right there. This is 11 o'clock. Okay, what that's done now, that's given me a down angle to knock the 8 ball in the side and just float the cue ball down table for position on the 9, using the clock system to play 3 balls ahead. It's a real good system to use. It'll keep you away from these rascals, which you don't want any part of. It'll keep you out of the pocket, and it'll keep you on the proper side of the ball to be able to play 2 or 3 balls ahead. Okay, I've got another series of shots here that I'm going to use using the clock system, but this time I'm going to add a little to it. I'm going to go ahead and go right into the basics, the bridge, the grip, the stance, show you everything that you're supposed to do the right way in order to execute a shot properly. All right, I've set the 9 right here, right off of this diamond. I brought the cue ball edge to edge again. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to line the cue ball and the 9 ball up where I want to hit the 9 and set the tip of the cue right where my bridge hand wants to be. That's where I want my bridge hand. I've got the cue right beside me. I take a step straight out. I pivot my right foot. This brings me right down in line. I'm going to use the open hand bridge on this particular shot. 1 o'clock on the cue ball should go 2 rails to this diamond right here. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball. Okay. Now, that's using the proper stance, the proper bridge, the proper grip, making sure I'm lined up properly on it, doing everything the right way, because I know how important it is to hit this spot right here. All right, now I'm going to set the same shot up again. Set the 9 right there. I'm going to bring the cue ball back up here, edge to edge. Now this time I'm going to use a closed bridge, because anytime you start getting to the farther outside of the cue ball, you really need to use a closed bridge, because you have to control your tip more. When you put more English on the ball, you actually need to wrap your finger around the cue instead of letting it slide across your thumb. Okay, we're still going to go with the proper basics. We're going to use 2 o'clock on the cue ball, and we're going to try to hit this diamond right here. This time it'll be with a closed bridge instead of an open bridge. I lay my cue tip down right in the area that I want my bridge hand. I'm lined up to the area on the 9 that I want to hit. I take a step forward. I pivot my right foot. This gives me a solid base right here. I'm grounded. Now I bend down to the shot, a nice closed bridge, 2 o'clock on the cue ball to the second diamond. That's a very, very accurate system. That'll get you from here to there. It'll win you a lot of games, and a lot of times you'll continue to have shots instead of running out of shots, because you can be on the proper side of the ball. I'll give you an example of how this works now. I'm going to set this shot up. I'm going to set the 1 ball here this time. I'm going to take the 3 ball right here and the 9 ball back here. Okay? Now, I'm going to set edge to edge. I have 3 balls on the table that I want to play position on. I have to play 3 balls ahead. I'm going to use the clock system, because I know that I can count on the clock system. I know that the ball's going to go where I want it to go, using the numbers on a clock to equal a diamond on the pool table. Here again, I'm going to go to pure basics. I'm going to lay the cue tip down exactly where I want to lay it. I'm standing straight up, lining the cue ball up to the area on the 1 that I want to hit. I'm taking my step forward. I'm pivoting. I've got a good solid base, good solid foundation here. I'm going to use an open hand bridge on this shot. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball to play position on the 3 to get position on the 9. That's a perfect shot to play position, 3 balls ahead to play position on the 9. Now all I have to do is come around here, knock the 3 ball in, let the cue ball float down table. It's a very simple shot, because I played the clock system. I'm on the proper side of the ball. Now, if you use this system, you won't run out of shots as often as you normally would. Okay, what I'm going to do, I've changed sides of the table here. I'm going to set the 9 ball, right here off of both of these diamonds. I'm going to come off of this diamond here, edge to edge. It's just like the shot that we shot from this side of the table. But this time I want you to focus on the stroke itself, because this is important. I've had a lot of my friends and fans alike, just like some of you guys out there, they want to know, well, how do you stroke the shot? They want to see what kind of action you give the cue stick in order to make the cue ball react the way you want it to act. Well, I'm going to hit this first shot at 11 o'clock. There's a slight difference in the 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, but there's a remarkable amount of difference, amount of likeness from the 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Now, 12 o'clock is different. But anyway, at 11 o'clock on the cue ball, 1 reel to bring the cue ball to right here. Watch the stroke. Okay, I'm right back again. I'm going to go straight to my basics. I've got the cue right here at my side. I've got the tip out there about where I want it. Okay, I'm going to take a step forward. I'm going to pivot. Now I've got a good solid stance. Now I'm coming down to the table. This is 1 o'clock on the cue ball to come to the first diamond. Now you notice the 1 o'clock, the action of the stroke to go to this. Now 12 o'clock, I want you to watch 12 o'clock. There's a slight difference because how many of you are familiar with what they call the tuck and roll? See, anytime you put English on a ball, if you're putting right-hand English on the cue ball, in order for that English to work, you have to come across the cue ball. That may be exaggerated, but you have to come across the cue ball like that. And what happens is your hand actually will tuck and roll. When you put English on the ball, it's like that. Okay. Now, with center ball, you don't have that. Okay, we're coming straight off this diamond. I've got them both in the same place. This is 12 o'clock on the cue ball. Now watch the hand action. Again, I'm going to take up my basic stance. I got my Q-tip where I want my bridge hand. I'm taking a step forward. I pivot. I'm coming down to the table. This is straight center cue ball. This is 12 o'clock. That's exactly where it's supposed to go, is right in the pocket. That's 12 o'clock. Now, with that action, there's no tuck, there's no roll. It's just straight forward. That's all you get. It's just a straight forward motion. Now, I'm going to use the 1 o'clock. Again, watch the action. Now 1 o'clock is a tuck and roll, but it's reversed. This time it's going out like this. That's exaggerating it, but that's actually what you do. And what happens is your hand will actually come out a little bit like this on the tuck and roll. I mean on your 1 o'clock positioning on the cue ball. Okay, here we go. Tip right where my hand wants to be. I'm at attention. My Q-tip is right where my bridge hand wants to be. I take my step, I pivot, I drop down. This is, excuse me, it's 11 o'clock on the cue ball. I'm reversed. It's 11 o'clock on the cue ball. Here we go. See, you get a little bit of a tuck, and a little bit of a roll to the left. Okay, that's the stroke. That's the stance. That's the proper bridge. If you'll remember, when you get down to play, if you'll approach the table correctly, line the cue ball up with the area on the ball that you want to hit. Put your Q-tip where you want your bridge hand to be. Line yourself straight up to it. Take a step out beside your cue stick. Don't step toward your cue. Step straight out beside your cue, pivot this foot. Then when you come down, you'll be coming down with a perfect tripod. You have this hand is leverage. This foot is your balance. This foot here is your strength foot. You're all right there. Everything here is uniform. You're in a perfect position to execute a perfect shot. And if you use the clock system, you're more than likely you'll execute a perfect shot. Okay, I've covered quite a few shots here, and we've used the clock system in different situations to get from one place to another, so you can have a down angle and an up angle and all that. And a lot of times when you're hitting the cue ball, people may not agree 100% on your stroke techniques and stuff like that, but the thing about it is you can't apply English. I just want to put this in here. You can't apply English to the cue ball unless you tuck and roll. Now, a lot of the old-timers said, no, that a stroke, a straight-through stroke is the way you hit the ball. Well, that's impossible. You can't hit straight through and apply English to the cue ball. If you do, you're going to get a deflection out of the cue ball that you can't control. You're not going to be able to shoot the line that the cue ball needs to shoot. But now, if you tuck and roll, you can judge that. Now, that's hard to explain, and it may be hard for you to grasp. But anyway, if you'll practice these techniques, I'm sure that it'll improve your pool game. And from the bottom of my heart, I really hope that it improves everybody's game, at least one ball and hopefully two, that looks at this tape. God bless.
You're the one that keeps me yearning, where the fire that keeps on burning. Oh, baby, your love's everything I need. You're the only one for me. They say that true love, well, it's hard to find. But the first time you held me close, I about lost my mind. I felt my heart jump a beat. Well, I ain't telling no lies. Right then I knew you were the one for me. I crossed my heart and hope today. You're my heart, you're my soul. You're the one that makes me lose control. Oh, baby, your love knocks me to my knees. You're the one that keeps me yearning, where the fire that keeps on burning. Oh, baby, your love's everything I need. You're the only one for me. You're my heart, you're my soul. You're the one that makes me lose control. Oh, baby, your love knocks me to my knees. You're the one that keeps me yearning, where the fire